My name is Andre Kunz. I used to be on radio in Central South Africa. I love the storytelling business, and sometimes in a story you have to say, I apologize. A very wise man once said, to make a mistake is human, but for a really, really, really big cock up, you need a computer, and that has been proven here today.
Well done. Over to you. We look forward to listening to your story, sir.
Okay, so basically, I'm going to tell you the story about implementing the lineup change at 5FM. And as much as I would like to take credit for being the brains behind the whole thing, I really wasn't. As you all know who work in organizations, these things are team efforts with everybody contributing. So just to give you a little bit of context as to radio and what else. Radio has two masters, the advertiser and the audience. Engaged audience. For any of you who've ever advertised anywhere, you know you want to return on your investment. So that's all advertisers want. They want to see ROI. Listeners, on the other hand, want to be entertained. So when the right audience is entertained, advertisers see return on investment. So that's basically what radio in the commercial sense does. With this in mind, the most lucrative market to penetrate in the radio world is the 25 to 45 age group. That was the old thinking anyway. Working adults with some money. All the commercial competitors in South Africa, and I'm talking about OFM 94.7, 94.2, Jacaranda, KFM, East Coast Radio. This is where they are fighting. This is where they are trying to suck every cent possible out of that market. And due to some very bad mismanagement over years, 5FM had slipped into this market. Now, obviously, the adventures at the SABC have been very well documented. And this has kind of been part of the reason that 5FM had to make a big shift. So before we made the shift, this is what our lineup looked like. We had an average age of 35. Diverse South Africans, brilliant broadcasters, but their average age was 35. It's important to remember that. So when we're trying to find the right audience, who are we talking to? So keeping in mind that all the commercial players are fighting for that 25 to 45, why not go for easier, low-hanging fruit? So 5FM's traditional place in the market was always the youth brand. But as I mentioned, due to some bad mismanagement, we had slipped into this adult contemporary section of the market, but we were playing the wrong music for that market. We had old people, older presenters trying to sound cool, playing young people music. It doesn't work. So to get to the 16 to 24 youth market, we needed to make some changes. And to tap into this market, what we needed to do is we needed to say, okay, how are we going to make our unique selling point be the 16 to 24? What is going to make us stand out? So we said we had to be of the youth, not youthful. We had to find presenters that were really young, and could speak the language of the youth. 5FM traditionally has always also been the edgy radio station that mom and dad don't really want you to listen to because they might push the boundaries every now and then. We needed to get a bit more edgy. We needed to be fluid. And what we mean by fluid in this context is in South Africa, we are in an evolving market, especially within the 16 to 24 year age group. So what fluid means is we need to be able to speak the language of the location and the language of Sandton City. We need to be able to be as comfortable being in the Cape Flats as we are being at the waterfront. We need to be fluid. We need not to make anybody feel that they are not welcome. We obviously need to be commercial. And what we mean in a 5FM context, we need to be thinking, how can we monetize anything that we are doing on the station? Keeping to the fluidity, the edge, and the youthful above. And we do that with content. Content is the king in radio. Content is what sets you apart. So keeping that framework in mind, 5FM leveled up, and we had to go and get some new presenters. And this is what these people look like.
So Andre, in your rush to get back on air, when you shared, you forgot to tick the share computer audio button. So just reshare and...
Apologies, here we go. There we go.
System upgrade complete. Are you ready? A new level. It's about to go down. New
Andre, we don't see the show.
On 5. It's bringing the power to you. Upgraded to level 5.
Andre?
System upgrade complete.
You maybe just stop your share and reshare, or just bring your PowerPoint up. We don't see the PowerPoint. Apologies.
Okay, let me try this again.
So just make sure that your PowerPoint is visible on your full screen.
Can you see that now?
There we go.
5 is bringing the power to you. Upgraded to level 5. System upgrade complete. Are you ready? A new level. It's about to go down. New player profiles loading. Karabo waking you up early on 5, 4 to 6 a.m. weekdays. Next upgrade. 5 breakfast with Dan Corder. Matapelo Moloi. Lizondo Marley van Eerden. 6 to 9 a.m. weekdays. This is 5FM. Loading system file for 5 mid-mornings with Stephanie B. 9 to 12 weekdays. Lunch on 5 with Zanele Bordelwa. 12 to 3 p.m. weekdays. Scanning the 5 drive team. Scan complete. Nick, Nadia, BB, and Jude on the 5 drive. Taking you home 3 to 6 p.m. Update at 98%. In the mix with Roger Good, 6 to 7 p.m. 5 nights with Smash Africa, 7 to 10 p.m. 5 late nights with Leah Jazz, 10 p.m. to 1 a.m. Friday nights with Roger Good on 5, 6 to 10 p.m. And in Thus We Trust on 5, 10 p.m. to 1 a.m. System upgrade complete. This April, 5 is bringing the power to you. 5FM.
That was just a short video of just the daytime lineup that's changed. But this is our full new presenter lineup on 5. We've taken the average age from 35, we brought it down to 27. So you ask me why 27 when you are going for the 16 to 24-year-olds? When you are 16 to 24, all you want to be is older. So the sweet spot is 27. They speak the language of the youth. They use the right. They know this stuff. We just then had to make sure that they were doing and presenting what we needed them to do. But it's easier to teach style than it is to grow talent. So what we did was we went and found talented people who did the job that we needed them to do. My job is then to make them creative and sound and do the right content. So that's my contribution to this project. Here is just in their own words what this new daytime lineup feels about the job that they are doing on 5.
Andre,
what they bring to the party. Yes, sir.
Just before you start playing there, Telly says, I really enjoyed, everybody, could you just make sure you're on mute? Telly says, I really enjoyed Roger on breakfast. Cambo says, Smash was on Coffee FM. And Telly then says, no more Forbes, no more Fix.
That's right.
Does that make sense in your world?
Yes, it does. Telly, how old are you?
Hi, Andre. I'm 30 years old.
30. Yeah,
Actually, I'm 29, turning 30. So currently I'm 29. I don't know why I said I'm 30 years old.
Yeah. So, Telly, it would make sense that those of your, like, those presenters that you mentioned were right in the sweet spot of when you were 16 to 24. It was perfect for you, and it's why you've got such an emotional attachment to them.
And you all have to like Bibi, because all of the nonsense she learned from my wife.
So that is the problem with a youth radio station. Every year we move away from that sweet spot. And this is part of the problem of why 5FM had to do such a massive rebrand in this April, because for years and years, the presenter lineup had gotten older and older and older, and we were moving away from our target market, the 16 to 24s. And like I said earlier, we had then slipped into this adult contemporary 25 to 45 market, which is the most competitive market in South Africa. Now, for those of you who are in business, like, you know, why fight to make 10 Rand in this really competitive market when we can make 100 Rand servicing a group that's not being serviced at all? That is why we had to make such a drastic move. These moves wouldn't have seemed so drastic if, under good management, slowly but surely every year you had molded it to keep it at that sweet spot. So it's actually a perfect example of how in the management life cycle, no one was reviewing if things are going well. We just kept doing the same thing over and expecting a different result. So we had then slipped to a listenership of about 680,000. At the last Rams Diary, the BRC Diary of the old lineup. In the 4 or 5 months since the new lineup, we've heard some rumorings that we are now pushing 1.2 mil. So just by putting the right product in front of the ears of our listeners, we've already seen a massive uptake in our product. And all of a sudden, we look massively good to potential advertisers. And once I've played this video, I'll explain why that is massively important within the context of the SABC. But let's just listen to what this new group of lineup of presenters have to say about 5.
Hey, my name is Dan Corder. I'm from Cape Town, loud and proud South African. I host 5's breakfast show, 6 to 9 a.m. weekdays, all across the nation. So 5 Breakfast with Dan Corder, 6 to 9 a.m. weekdays across the country, is about the future of South Africa expressing itself today, giving a voice to the young people who are going to make the South Africa of tomorrow. So it's about university struggles, it's about high school joys, it's about getting older, finding out about the real world, adulting for the first time, and just trying to make our way as people in a new South Africa that's developing and changing every day, and of course, celebrating the music that we love the most.
Hi, my name is Stephanie B, and I do 5 mid-mornings, Mondays to Fridays, 9 a.m. to midday on 5FM. What you can expect from 5 mid-mornings this year is I'm basically there to be your best friend. A whole lot of heart. I am hoping to focus a lot of the conversation on mental health. I don't think a lot of people in our positions take the opportunity and the platform that they're given to speak honestly and openly about it, and I do feel like I've got to that point in my life where I am comfortable. Then also some amazing new music. I am working incredibly hard with the record labels to get the best interviews, the best music debuts, and I'm looking forward to it.
Allow me to reintroduce myself. I'm Queen Z, the queen of lunchtime, baby. What's up, everybody? My name is Zanele, and I am with you 12 to 3 p.m. Monday to Friday on 5FM. So what you can expect from 5 Lunch with myself, Zanele, as well as Yanga, is a whole lot of fun. That is the premise of who we are and what we do. And at the end of the day, if we ever had a constitution, number 1 would be have fun. And that's the end. There's nothing else to it. more than anything else, it's going to be about us going out and venturing into some brand new things, having a lot of fun. I see us even going out, perhaps doing a bit of skydiving, bungee jumping. We might go and climb Table Mountain. We're just going to do what we need to do in order to make sure that lunches are anything but boring in South Africa. And I hope you're going to be there, because if you're not, you're going to be missing out. And we want you to be part of our 5 Lunch family. And that's what you can expect.
What's up? I'm Nick Hammond, and I'm the host of 5 Drive. 5 Drive is the unapologetic voice of the youth of South Africa. Tune in every day to hear us have the important conversations as we invite you in to the hottest radio this side of the Limpopo.
5FM, bringing the power to you.
So as you can see, we came in with a massively irreverent stance, brand new lineup, new presenters, some brand new, some known to the station before. And in doing this, we've already seen an uptick in our numbers of people listening, according to some RAMS reports we've been getting, which then makes us a lot more attractive to advertisers. I've got some. If you have any questions, please feel free to shout them out or get the to. So radio campaigns, as I say, are designed with specific outcomes in mind, and the same thing with advertising campaigns. So as much as an advertiser advertises on the radio advertises on the radio, which is why you will hear on your favorite radio station, they will replay segments from other shows to keep you interested. And it's almost like we are using our own medium to promote ourselves. So some campaigns are designed, you'll see I've said there, a cum builder. That's what in radio terms, it's accumulation builder to get more audience. And some are designed as time spent listening builders, TSL, for the amount of time you spend listening to the radio per day. Now, in a perfect world, your audience would listen 24/7 to your radio station, but we know that's not it's not possible. So you try and get as many people to listen for as long as possible with campaigns like this.
Hello, it's another edition of
Stop, drop and party! Lucille, I think you've been listening to 5FM for far too long, dear. You're beginning to shout out ridiculous phrases.
Sorry, Gogo, but it's the final week of the 5FM Stop, Drop and Party birthday campaign, and I would hate to lose out if I answer every call with hello.
You're carrying on as if they're giving away 45,000 rand.
Yeah, go, they are.
Just hold on for a second. Stop, drop and party!
Gogo, are you still there?
Everyone can stop, drop, and party with us in our final week, where you can be the winner of 45,000 Rand in cold hard cash to spend on whatever you want. All you gotta do is make sure you answer that next call with you'd swear it's our birthday.
So in a campaign like that, what we're trying to get is we get people to enter with their telephone numbers. And then what we're wanting them to do is listen. And every time their phone rings, we want them to answer with stop, drop, and party. It does 2 things. First of all, it gets people to listen for longer. Plus, it gets people talking about why are you answering your phone with stop, drop, and party. It would happen often where people would be in a meeting. They would want to win the money. They would answer with that. It gets talkability about your radio station. It's part of brand building, call to action, awareness, etc.
Andre.
Hello, it's another edition of.
Okay,
Andre,
so
we have Telly, and he's very anxious to chat to you.
Telly, hit me, really.
Telly, please unmute and ask your question.
Thank you, Dion. Andre, now that there's podcasting on the rise, and it's no longer a buzzword. It's something that people are actually getting into in multitudes, and especially the video format. However, people overlook how significant the audio format is, and I learned that the market cap for audio podcasts currently in South Africa is somewhere around 13 million listeners. And don't you think, I'm sorry, I'm just trying to pick your brain here, sorry. Do you think that poses a threat to terrestrial radio as we know it?
It is a threat. It is a threat, but I'll also tell you that I read a stat last week where I think there is a new podcast being put online every 2 seconds. So if you do the numbers on that, 13 million divided by a podcast every 2 seconds, that pie gets very small very quickly. It is a threat, though, in terms of how people are consuming radio. So I think what you'll see is I don't think radio will ever die, but what I will see, I think podcasts will augment the radio offering. So due to radio, as we know, its constraints with advertising, etc., you might have shorter interviews that go out on air, and you might have longer format interviews that live on podcasts. You might also have specialized podcasts for specific shows, etc. It is something that the radio business is worried about. I will also say that radio has been dying since the invention of the television. Video was going to kill the radio star. The internet was going to kill the radio star. There's a beautiful thing that happens, though, with live radio. It's one of the last places that adults can use their imagination, reading and the radio, and radio was the first social media. It really was. Even though the feedback was slower back in the day with send us a postcard or a fax, it literally was the first social media. So it is much like podcasting, and the internet has augmented other industries. I think it will do the same thing.
Delia has a follow-up question, and then there's also a question from Chris. So Telly, you go first.
Thank you, Andre. That answered a lot. However, I also, think about the world that we find ourselves in right now, which is where you see an emergence of on-demand content or things that fit the consumer's interests, which is something that, I think maybe social media or access to the cell phone gave us access to, where people now, don't feel so bound to, hey, maybe I need to listen to a show. That's a lot of the time maybe like entertainment and information, but people a lot of the time in today's world know what they're looking for. They want to listen to, say, marketing, or they want to listen to a show about disruptive technologies, or they want to listen to a show about financial literacy. They know exactly where to go. And just picking your brain again, where do you think that positions radio in terms of meeting the demand for these consumers? Thank you.
Okay, so back in the day, the radio used to be the only place where young people could hear the newest music. It was the only place, which gave radio a massive advantage. These days, with Spotify and all of your streaming services, that is no longer radio's unique selling point. Radio's unique selling point now is content, creating content. So when I'm training my young presenters, I tell them that take it as a given that the music is going to be great. We're going to play the best music, and that is the chocolate cake. That is the chocolate cake. It is moist and it's soft and it's delicious. The content, though, is the icing. And to tell you and to kind of illustrate how it's going, Spotify is, as we speak, busy working on a way to integrate content into their music streams. So they're trying to invent radio, is what they're trying to do. Because as much as you can get the newest releases on a playlist, you want something that is being curated. So and this is why we had to do these massive changes to our lineup. We had to get voices and people that our audience would trust to be the curators of their content. So if you've listened to what Zanele has been doing for the last 3 months and you're like, I like Zanele, her and I agree on fashion, and you've picked up from listening to the show that you and Zanele pick up, you have some commonality.
Shaky.
When Zanele then tells you to listen to this brand new release, you will be a lot more open to her suggestion, because the radio has always been great at creating friendships. Which is why you got so emotional about Roger Good and the Forbes and Fix show, because they were your friends. And that is what Spotify and the playlists don't give.
Andre, there's a couple of more questions that's come in. Andre, can you still hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so Kambo also says, how do the radio personalities' chop and changes affect advertising in terms of live reads and audiences being familiar to a radio personality's voice?
So we did initially see a retraction in advertising spend when we changed the lineup, and it's basically the market saying, okay, we're just going to wait and see to see what is this new thing you're giving us. We first want to make sure before we get behind your new lineup if we trust you. So initially, for the first 2 months, we definitely saw a retraction in advertising spend, which also didn't help the fact that we were in a worldwide pandemic and we were in the post-SABC meltdown when we're trying to claw ourselves out of a massive debt. So it wasn't great. What we did feel, though, as a management team, though, it was better to pull the bandage now than go another year without doing these changes, because another year would have just taken us even further away. And 5FM was on the brink of becoming irrelevant. A station like 5, it's got massive legacy behind it, but legacy can only carry you so far. If you're not delivering the goods, we were close to being irrelevant. It would have been worthwhile for SABC to shut us down, because it would have just been too big a drain. So we took the big decision, and we're starting to see some green shoots from that decision now.
Ole Batsi also asks, do you keep those DJs and those presenters on your payroll, or do you loan them out, or do they literally move to other stations?
So they are freelancers. They work for themselves. They are signed on a year-to-year contract. The radio business, I would not suggest anybody go into it. It's a horrible business, especially for job security. If you want job security, become something else. Don't become a radio professional, because there's no job security, and especially in the youth market, because like I told you, you're only young for so long, and you're only relevant to that market for so long. And if you don't get picked up by an adult contemporary radio station like OFM, 94.7, Jacaranda, Metro, etc., a career can be very short.
Yeah. And then last question here, and I've never thought of this. The question is, do you advertise on other radio stations, or is there sort of a professional courtesy? We don't allow that.
No. Because we're the SABC, we advertise on some of the television brands, but the SABC has 18 radio stations. So you wouldn't hear Mhlobo Wenene advertising on 5FM. That wouldn't happen. And the private radio stations would definitely not let us advertise on them. Every now and then, though, we would. There's been a couple of campaigns where we would, over the years, where certain radio stations would phone other radio stations just to mention their own radio station on another thing. But that's just some professional fun.
Naughty.
Yes.
Pete, you've also got a question?
Dion, I just more wanted to say to Andre, because obviously we've been a lot closer to Radio 5 for the last 2 years because of Bibi. And I found it quite amazing, and I can understand that your numbers is growing, because even right through COVID, I mean, we're always saying Nick and his team is I mean, they've just been doing stakeholder engagement all over the country all of the time. And you can just see, they are really sort of getting onto ground roots again. And
Yeah.
then
They
I
create
think
content. Content is the key, and that's what that is their job. And so, like, I mean, even during COVID, they've gone on an Africa tour. They're about to go on a heritage tour. They create content every single day, and that is what keeps people tuning in.
Yeah. And I think also, Andre, I mean, I hear what people are saying about, all the different contents, but I can still only really successfully listen to the radio in my car. In traffic, you almost on the radio station all the time. So you've got that audience, I think you'll have forever as well.
Yeah, I mean, in Europe, we're finding a lot more digital radio being fitted to cars, where it gives those listeners access to listening to podcasts, etc. It is an expensive technology. South Africa is probably a couple of years behind, but it will come here. It will come. I do, however, think that radio stations will be the forerunners of those platforms. I think you'll find we're really starting to see it in some of your adult contemporary radio stations where they have created. I know East Coast Radio, for example, they have what they call East Coast Gold, where they play the golden oldies. It's only available online, and it does fantastically well for them. Their streams on that service is fantastic because people can tune in via the internet, listen to the music they like, and it's still servicing the guys who listened to East Coast Radio 10, 20 years ago, who still want to hear that music. It still gives them a play. Yeah. LM Radio is another one. They're doing a great job online. You can listen to them on some of the digital channel bouquets. You can listen to them online. That's another thing. So, these are all risks, and I'm getting a flashback to Dion's risk management lectures that I've realized now, working at the SABC, everything is a risk. But as long as you know what the risks are, you can mitigate them. It's the risk you don't know about, like COVID-19, that flatten you. So these risks are, I think, will be serviced by radio stations like East Coast have created East Coast Gold. I know up here in Gauteng, Jacaranda have got an all Afrikaans service. I think OFM is trying a similar thing. There'll be multi-layers of this thing. In the UK, radio stations like Virgin have where you can listen to the presenters, but the music, the same presenters, but the music is either of the 60s, 70s, 80s, or 90s. So you can actually choose by decade. So this is always, but it still remains radio, and it still remains the art of storytelling, which is very near and dear to my heart.
All right, Andre, let's continue with.
Well, I actually think we're probably going to get more. You'll see on the slide that some of the problems we've had in this. However, the problems haven't stopped our. Sometimes when you make a business decision, you kind of have to back yourself for a couple of months till you see the green shoots. So these were some of the problems we'd had up to date. Diminishing client budgets, integration across multiple platforms. I know if anybody, that's becoming a massive. Well, we've actually tried to turn it into a plus because. Integrating is good at. So we've got a massive social media audience, so like we've got like 1.1 million followers on Twitter, about the same on Instagram, Facebook less so, but that's for Facebook would be.
Andre, sorry, I don't know if it's just me, but when you said Facebook, kind of you went quiet. And I'd just be interested why you're not so active on Facebook, because
Facebook, we've market research has shown that Facebook has become it's an older platform. It's an older market. So for younger people, Instagram is where it's at for them at the moment, and that will obviously also change because the youth. That's one of the great things about being a youth brand is you always need to be at the forefront of whatever the new thing is. So for our audience, their parents are on Facebook, and you don't want to be anywhere with your parents.
Don't want to be stalked by mum.
That's exactly right. That is exactly what it is. So I'm sure as Instagram is now top of the pops, it will be, there'll be something new coming, and you've got to always be mindful of that and integrate that into your content offering. So as I mentioned
Andre,
before,
I don't know what your schedule is like. I don't mind if we go a little bit over time. I just want to sort of manage the expectation from the audience as well. What is your time planning?
I'm completely open, and I apologize once again for my technical issues that made us run late. I apologize.
No problem. Then you talk until you're done. Thank you for the audience and your patience.
So as mentioned earlier, music used to be the content that brought people to the radio. As we now know, with all of these streaming services, the music is no longer the content that brings you to the radio. You can get us as a radio station are unable to program a radio station for each individual person like they can, because on your cell phone you can program your own amazing radio station. What you don't have though is the content, the stuff between the songs. As Prof. Pete mentioned just now, he was talking about our 5 Drive. 5 Drive have made content and bringing unique the centerpiece of their show. You will not sing on their show from day to day. Like I said, they went on a Southern Africa tour during Africa Month earlier in the year. Even though it was locked down, they made it happen. They were broadcasting from the Okavango Delta, from Swaziland. They were up in the Nama broadcasting from the dunes. Kind of when we were all unable to travel, they, via the medium of radio, were able to take us there. And this is the kind of content that will keep people entertained. And content needs to be compelling. So, being in the content business, every business is in the content business. And if you are wanting to make sure that your audience, and every business has an audience, is entertained, your content needs to be compelling. So I hope my little contribution to the UFS Business School's content has been compelling.
You figured us out.
5 Drive with Nick Hammond.
All right, it's 5 Drive on 5FM. We're making winners with Axe. All week on the show, Axe makes you go, If you want more information or details, you can go check out 5fm.co.za. This afternoon, we'd asked for contestants to come to air. We're going to put you into a live date scenario. And either dating Nadia or Bibi, we wanted to see how many times you could make them go, on the date. So, on the line, we have Clive. Clive, how's it going?
How's it, Nick and team? How you doing?
And welcome to the show, buddy. We're good, man. Listen, who do you want to try and impress on a date today?
Use Nadia.
All right.
All right, so this is how this is going to work. I'm going to set up some scenarios for you this afternoon, Clive, and then you're going to answer with what you think you would do were you on a date with Nadia. If she goes, that's 1 point for you. If she doesn't, we move on to the next question. The more you get right, the bigger your prize today. Are you ready to play?
Let's go.
All right, let's do this. Okay, here is the first scenario. The date.
Andre, is it just me that lost sound again? Or
Nadia, are you a duck?
As soon as he asked him the questions, I don't think Nick wants us to go on a date with Nadia.
What gift is
going to do the leaf, bring flowers.
2 for 2? This one with a bit more interest in the first one as well. You're headed in the right direction, buddy. Can you make it 3 out of 3? Let's find out this afternoon. All right. Now, the menus arrive, and you are asked, by the way, Tron, what you would like to order. What do you go for?
I am going to go for something that we can share. Two.
Right? Well, this afternoon, meaning, Clive, 3 out of 3, you're a big winner this afternoon with Axe on Drive.
Thank you, Axe. Thank you, 5FM.
Are required to give out this T's and C's. This does not lead to a real date, Clive, but it does lead to real prizes, courtesy of Axe and 5 Drive. Congratulations. Have a lucky rest of your day.
Thank you, you too, Nick.
So that's just an example.
that make you go.
Just an example of
5 Drive with Nick Hammond.
of a campaign that we did for Axe. The great thing about radio and the fact that it's a storytelling medium, your imagination is literally the only hurdle to creating these things. So Axe had, for that campaign, it was, their slogan was, things that make you go, So we had come up with this campaign. It went very well for them. However, content like that is not what I'm talking about when it comes to compelling content. People would rather listen to a story than listen to someone winning a prize. So advertisers also need to keep that in mind, but that's something more on the back end of the slide. Any questions?
Andre, I must tell you, the other thing there is like Nick and them really makes it fun. I mean, they just do silly stuff. It's like phoning people in Benoni and ask them if they've read any books. And then half of Benoni has only ever read the Bible. You know, and it's like, it keeps it alive. You know what I'm saying? And it's reactional. And I think that's what makes it like just completely different.
Yes,
it's not pre-orchestrated. It's just what happens. And it just makes it so real.
Okay. Prof, I'm going to tell you some of the best radio. Even though it sounds like it just happened, it didn't just happen.
Okay. Yeah. Very well prompted mistakes.
Yeah, no, look, we're in the entertainment business. A radio studio is a stage. As long as you're having fun, we're winning. That's the key, basically.
So Andre, on a program like this APM, we work from the point of departure that we use project management as a tool to give effect to strategy execution. And what you guys have effectively done is you went through a strategic review process, a repositioning, a set of decisions that you went, and then the work had to happen. Yes. Now my experience with working with people in a creative space is that organizing them in a row to get the job done from a project management perspective is like herding cats. You know, they're creative. They don't want to be boxed in, and they here today, more, there tomorrow. In a radio environment, how did you go about setting up projects to give effect to your strategy?
So we started by communicating what the strategy was. So we made sure that the new team knew exactly what was expected of them. So they were hired because we wanted to create compelling content that would attract more listeners that we could then sell to advertisers. So we then put them in charge of their own little thing. So every presenter has their own show. We gave them the parameters with which we wanted to work. So in terms of deliverables, we said we want 100% execution of live reads and advertisements. And we put systems in place to make sure that this could happen. So at the SABC, when an ad break comes, the mics will literally turn off and the ad will play. So the presenter can't say, oh, I forgot, or something happened. Plus, on that same system, the live read actually comes onto their screen in front of them. So we put systems in place to make sure that this goal of a 100% execution of live reads and advertising was able to be met. We then said, okay, all we need you to do then for the rest is create compelling content between the music and the advert. And that's making it sound massively simplistic, because the best radio presenters manage to make the music and their content sort of meet. But we said, go and have fun. Go and have fun and create us compelling content, and using those parameters and the basic radio presenting rules that we'd also give them in a style guide, which every radio station will have. You know, a style guide would be like when you want the back announcing to happen, how do you say the radio station's name, etc., etc. We gave them those parameters. And then for the rest, we said, have fun. But there has to be something every day. That's the only, your job is to go out and have fun every day and create fun stuff. So like when the prof says sometimes they're phoning Benoni, that's something they did that day. Like, go and have a jaw, because if you're having fun, the audience have fun. And that's how we manage these creative people. Being a creative myself, I hate being micromanaged. I'd rather be given a task and then you evaluate me on the end result. If the end result wasn't what you wanted, we review again, we try again, but to micromanage the process, rather you do it yourself then. So
Andre,
we said to these...
No, sorry, when you're
yes,
done,
Prof.
when you're done.
Yeah, so we just said to, we said to these presenters, human.
Dion, can you hear?
Do the ad.
You're on mute, Dion.
Apologies, I think Andre is just struggling with signal.
Signal, okay.
Are you back, Andre?
Yeah, I think Andre.
Hello.
Oh, Andre's
Yes.
back. Okay.
You're back. Okay. Telly has a final question. I think then we can start wrapping up.
Dion, when Telly's finished, I just want to ask Andre something about how they set up the team as well, because I think that I would quite just want to know how they do that.
Yeah, good point.
Thank you, Dion. Hi, Andre. Just before you answer my question, please take note of Christopher Rawson's two questions. Actually, I think they're pretty good. On my side, I can only imagine the position that you find yourself in, Andre, where you are marketing to Gen Zs in a fourth industrialized world during COVID. And I mean, we hear all kinds of things about how this market is so techno savvy. They're so financially literate. They're so environmentally conscious. And you know, the one thing that they like more than partying and having a good time is making money. And I think this actually offers you a great opportunity to perhaps consider something that speaks to these disruptive technologies that are changing the world rapidly, like your crypto or blockchain technology, and just finances, fintech. I think this is awesome stuff that perhaps 5FM needs to consider. And should they consider that, I know a guy. Thank you very much.
I was wondering where this was going. It sounds like an elevator pitch to me.
I didn't want to say that up front, Telly, but yeah, I mean, you sound like a guy who's done your homework. You're working towards something.
And so, Andre, even if that doesn't work, Telly, maybe Andre can give you a job in sales.
Absolutely.
Andre, I just wanted to ask you something. I mean, let's take the 5 Drive, right? So you've got Nick is the main communicator. I know Bibi is like the trafficologist. So will you have Nadia there as sort of almost like the scrum master, making them all on time and behavior? I'm just interested because you've got like 4 key players there. And yes, everybody gets included, but everybody also has a very specific job in the team.
Format, and it comes
Oh,
from
Andre,
a New York-based radio.
You were gone there, just start again. Please.
Am I back? Am I back?
You're back.
Yeah. The team format in radio got started in New York by a radio station called Z100, and they had what they called the Breakfast Zoo, and that's why it's called that. That was the first radio show to have more than sort of 2 people in it. And what the reason for that is, what you're wanting to do, especially in your drive shows in the morning and the afternoon, is you wanting to have a voice on the show that speaks to all of the people.
Okay.
Mom, dad, you've got little sis. So you want somebody who's talking to everybody. So an example that makes South African sense, when the radio stations privatized in the early 2000s, Jeremy Mansfield, The Rude Awakening, it was him and Sam,
yes,
and there was a sports person. Then what happened was their target market was young executives, and once that show had been going for sort of 5-10 years, these young upcoming executives were having children, and they needed somebody to entertain the kids, and that's when Wackhead came in.
Okay.
So each member of the team is a very important, crucial part. And that's why you'll often find teams of very diverse, different people.
Yeah,
so
yes.
like the 5 Drive, you've got Nick, Jude, Nadia, Bibi, who are very different, but they all do very, but when it comes together, it works perfectly. So they also need to be, their primary roles, they need to be excellent at as a given. So like Bibi needs to be able to give you the traffic perfectly every time. But that we take as the chocolate cake. The icing is
how
the fact that she is bubbly and she can tell a story and she's got a warm voice. And when she's got, and I'm so envious of it, when Bibi speaks, you smile. She's just got that smiling, bubbly effervescence. Nadia, you can hear she's the usual. She's a bit more serious, which is why when she does, as an addition, she does a lot of the movie interviews. She does a really good interview kind of thing. Nick is, he kind of holds the whole thing together. Loves traveling. Jude being the sports guy, loves football, loves all the stuff. So that is why all these people are on the team, and that's how these zoo formats are formed.
Right. Okay. Thanks.
Andre, Chris has a final question or 2, it seems, before we let you go.
Chris, hit me.
See if I can get that microphone. Hi there. I wanted to ask Andre, I think from my side, within a general management role and large part of my career also being involved in sales and achieving the impossible when the impossible is there. Something does come to mind, especially when you're looking that you are trying to sort of not reinvent the wheel, but improve the wheel while there's this other opposing YouTube and what you've discussed before. Something that has been in my mind is, if you remember the early 2000s, there was this company that brought out a little box with a rock in it. It was a pebble.
Yes.
And it sold millions.
Pet rock, yes.
And then one day people woke up and went, what the hell are we doing? There's no substance to this. It seemed like a good idea. And I do find if you go on YouTube with all these, every week, every day, there's new content, quote unquote. The content is becoming either one, it has no substance, or it's just bullshit. Yes. And people are starting to pick up on that. Do you guys take that into consideration as well, to say, listen, you're sticking with the radio thing, but actually maybe in the future this thing that people are focusing on will transition into something a bit more, the entertainment side will be put aside, maybe go back to radio, maybe go back to the TV and more educational. I know it's far-fetched, but You know, you go to YouTube, it's a stone, it's a pebble. You know, it's not the big stuff anymore.
No, you did right, and that's where initially, when everyone was able to become a content creator, the radio industry also sort of like worried. But I think in a normal war of attrition, what will happen is the most entertaining people will find their way to these things. The same way the biggest podcasts are not by people who are generally podcasters. Malcolm Gladwell is one of the biggest podcasters in the world, but he didn't start as that. He started as one of the best authors in the world. And, you know, Joe Rogan has one of the biggest podcasts in the world, but he didn't start as a podcaster. He started as a comedian and a TV show. So you already had a platform. And as I mentioned earlier, like you say, these podcasts are so ubiquitous and so many. I mean, there's literally a new podcast being loaded onto the internet every 2 seconds. It is humanly impossible to curate all of that stuff. So us as consumers eventually go, let me just go to a trusted source that can curate it for me. And I think that's where we're going to get to. I think in the future you'll see, much like Netflix, I think you'll start seeing subscription services for podcasts. Malcolm Gladwell's already doing it. He's already, his company is called Pushkin, and he's used his same model. He finds good authors who are great at writing to present these things. Of course, good radio comes from great writing. So he's found it. He's found this little gap. So I think, much like Netflix, you'll have these services where I trust the guys who work for this company because they've got Malcolm Gladwell, and I trust him. I read Outliers and Blink and Talking to Strangers. I think I'll listen to that podcast. So yes, you're right, and that is where I think radio will never die, because radio will still curate that for you. So we can be. I think you'll see that these radio stations will then have their websites will become bigger players in their business model. They'll be selling online-only content to the advertisers. But I still think it will be the radio stations that are doing it, because those are the people that know how to tell stories.
So it's a bit from quality to quantity. It's that side of the fence.
Exactly right. Exactly
Competition
right.
online is so steep that they'll push out anything. I mean, I follow a couple of YouTube channels that are all sort of educational type of stuff, but I don't follow anything radio-like. It's really, if I want to, I listen to the radio for the radio, and if I want something educational, I'll do it on YouTube. But thanks for your response, and good luck.
And there's so much fake news around that you're almost like, if you listen to a credible radio station, you know the news is actually going to be credible. Because the problem is, I mean, and I said that to Granny one day, it's like, if you're going to search the wrong stuff, you know, like about some oak in America, you're going to keep on being fed it. It doesn't mean that's all that's out there. It's just the search engine pick it up. Where at least on the radio, you know, there's going to be some governance, which is quite a nice thing.
Well, you'd hope so. I mean, the story of fake news, I mean, we could spend another 3 hours just talking about the damage that it's done to the broadcast media, and how, especially because America is at war with itself between liberals and conservatives, they've each now made their own. They've made their own radio stations, and they've made their own TV networks. So, I mean, we can talk about this for days. But yes.
Dion, is op mute.
Thank you. To latch onto the fake news thing, and I want to apologize to Christopher for missing out on these two questions that he posted. I think the one is a very relevant question. He asks, how do you balance content creation, popularity, relevance, and providing fair and unbiased political and social commentary to capture a wider audience? And I think that's a massive challenge.
So what we said in terms of us as trying to capture the 16 to 24-year-old market, we said to our presenters, because if you like it, the audience will like it. It can be different, and we can have robust conversations. Luckily, Post Cloudy is a very open place with regards to having all opinions, especially politically. Content, though, it's like a painting. It's a very subjective thing. And these creatives every day are basically trying to paint a painting every day. Some days you like it, some days you don't. Some days the one yesterday was better than today. Our hope was that with the group that we put together, that we could tick enough boxes for the sweet spot that we're going for. So even though we're trying to go for 16 to 24-year-old youth, we had even segmented it further. We had said, like, in the 16 to 24-year-olds, we're truly looking for. We are looking for private school kids, because if you go to any private school in South Africa, it is a little snapshot of what the future of South Africa looks like. It's multicultural, it's progressive, and because they're a private school, their mom and dad have got money to spend. So this is where we needed to play. And we went and we found presenters that would speak to that market. So that's basically how we try to, in trying to gain more audience, we segmented our market even further. That's basically the long and the short of it. Because the youth market has been so undercatered for, because 5FM had slipped into this anonymity of old presenters trying to play young music. It was just not working. So we could then make this massive, drastic change to be provocative. But it was a calculated risk because we were going for this very small segment.
100%. Let me just quickly see, is there any final? No. People are just applauding your contributions and your answers and so on, Andre. Listen, from the student side, from the broader audience's side, from Prof. Pete, from myself, it was fabulous listening to you. It was so good seeing you again. And thank you for all the insights that you brought. Thank you for the real world perspective that you created on executing a strategy project. Thank you for referring to risk management. I'm glad that I left it somewhere it's stuck.
And when he was awake, dude.
And we wish you all of the best.
Thank you, guys. And listen.
Andre, you said listen and then you went away?
Hello, am I back?
You're back, Andre? You said hello, and then you went away.
I struggled, but it was one of those worthwhile things I ever did, and I refer to my MDP daily. There's stuff that I do it subconsciously now, and it becomes a way of thinking. So well done to you. It's hard. You'll be so grateful that you've done it.
Thank you, Andre, and all of the best there. And I'm sure we've created a new appreciation for the way you take your product to the market, and there might even be a couple of people who switch to a 5FM radio station frequency. All of the best. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Andre.
Thank you, guys. Bye-bye. Cheers.
All the APM people, can you just pop back into class quickly so we can just have a touch base?